Welcome to Stoic Diary, where silence becomes a teacher and stillness reveals wisdom. Tonight, we embark on a journey of transformation, 2 hours of Stoic reflection that harmonize with the quiet of your rest, seeping into your subconscious to strengthen your inner fortress. As you listen, let your mind drift gently through the teachings of Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, allowing their insights to root deeper in your daily thoughts. In these moments, the seeds of resilience, clarity, and serenity are sown. Comment the following: I invite Stoic calm into my life. Engage now. You'll anchor your intent before sleep. We begin not with lofty promises, but with a gentle invitation. Surrender the notion that rest is passive. Instead, view sleep as a conduit for transformation. In silence, our rational mind, the captain, whispers reflections learned in waking hours, refining our soul's compass. Through these 2 hours, we meditate on what lies within our control and what lies beyond. We face the immortality of acceptance and the power of inner choice. Tonight, as you drift between wakefulness and sleep, I ask you to lean into discomfort, to allow the Stoic voice to rise in your mind. Let it speak of courage amid fear, equanimity amid chaos, and wisdom amid confusion. Let it remind you that you are not your impulses, you are not your fears. You are the rational being who observes, chooses, and endures. Allow your breath to slow. Imagine this time as a sacred ritual, 2 hours where restful awareness meets introspective clarity. In the darkness, the Stoic sage visits your thoughts, not as a distant oracle, but as a companion whispering ancient truths into your deeper self. Consider, in every waking moment, your judgments sculpt your experience. But in sleep, many of these judgments recede, yet the roots remain. If tonight you let the seeds of Stoic wisdom sink into that soil, by morning your judgments will begin to shift imperceptibly, aligning more with virtue than with impulse. This is not magic or wishful thinking. It is the intentional use of the liminal space between consciousness and rest. As you lie down, remind yourself, hardships are the workshops of the soul. Pain, loss, frustration, these are not curses, but crucibles in which your character is refined. Marcus Aurelius taught that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In sleep, when the outside world is distant, this truth may settle deeper in your being. You're invited now to a paradox, to act by surrendering, to improve by resting. The Stoic does not flee from difficulty, but leans into it, even in moments of apparent passivity. This evening, that leaning is done through attentive receptivity. Let your mind become a vessel, open to the quiet teachings of the night. Let me guide your attention inward. Feel the weight of your body, the rise and fall of your chest, the subtle currents of sensation that tether you to earth. With each breath, relax the tension in your temples, your jaw, your shoulders. Let thought slow its march. In the ensuing calm, the Stoic words stir softly, ready to be heard. If fear or restlessness arises, fear of unfulfilled days, regret, anxiety about tomorrow, let the Stoic respond, these are not in your control. What is in your control is your judgment, your intention, your will. Insist on that. I control only what is mine to control. Accept what lies beyond. Let this night gently show you that the boundary between sleeping and waking is not a barrier, but a bridge. On that bridge, ancient voices echo. Begin each day as if it were your last. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. These are not slogans, but companions. Tonight they walk beside you into the realms of rest. Lesson 1. Endurance is the foundation of all strength. There is a virtue within Stoicism that often hides behind the others, quiet and without ornament. It is not as admired as wisdom, nor as praised as justice, nor as immediately impressive as courage. Yet it is endurance, patient, resolute, silent endurance that forms the backbone of a Stoic life. In the hours of your sleep, as your body surrenders to rest, your inner mind can begin to realign itself with this virtue. Endurance is not stubbornness. It is not numbness. It is the ability to face discomfort, to live through uncertainty, to walk into difficulty with clarity and peace. Every day, challenges press in. Disappointments, losses, unmet expectations, emotional turbulence. These are facts of life, not punishments. Epictetus, once a slave, reminded his students that no man is free who is not master of himself. That mastery is cultivated not in easy moments, but in the furnace of adversity. Right now, as you drift between sleep and stillness, imagine yourself strengthening that capacity. The ability to hold your posture through storms, to remain unmoved by provocations that once unsettled you. When we speak of strength, we often imagine muscles, voices raised, action. But Stoic strength is quiet. It is not the noise of a warrior charging into battle, but the silence of a soul, unmoved by insult. It is the decision, made again and again, to bear the unbearable without bitterness. This kind of endurance is forged slowly, not by waiting passively, but by transforming each trial into a lesson. And so, even now in your rest, reflect, what recent hardship have you endured? And did it not teach you something of your resilience? The Stoics never promised that life would be fair or painless. In fact, they were quite clear. Suffering is a part of the human condition. But they did promise that within you lies a core that cannot be broken, only abandoned. If you return to it, if you strengthen it through reflection and restraint, you become unshakable. This is why we practice not just during the day, but also at night. Sleep becomes a ritual not of escape, but of preparation. You do not sleep to forget the world. You sleep to return to it stronger. Imagine now that you are not in a bed, but in a training ground. Every breath you take is a repetition. Every thought you release is a weight set down. The discipline of the Stoic is not restricted to moments of action. It is embedded in the quiet decisions, the mental rehearsals, the inner dialogues that happen when no one watches. In sleep, your mind consolidates what it learned while awake. This is the perfect moment to imprint new ideas, ideas that elevate you, ideas that fortify your peace. Let go of the belief that endurance is passive. A Stoic endures not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to accept what others resist. Think of Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by betrayal, illness, war, and death. His strength did not lie in his armies, but in his mind. He wrote again and again that everything external is nothing to us, that power resides in how we respond, not in what we face. Let this idea enter your thoughts now, softly but surely, and plant itself deeply. Perhaps today you felt overwhelmed by tasks, by relationships, by your own thoughts. That is not a failure. It is a lesson. The mind wants control, certainty, praise, comfort. But the Stoic is trained to surrender those desires without losing peace. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot control others, but you can control your interpretation, your response, your inner climate. That is endurance. Not gritting your teeth, but loosening your grasp on illusions and standing tall in the truth. Seneca taught that no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is untested. Life, therefore, is not something to escape, but something to train through. When pain arrives, it is not your enemy. It is your instructor. When sleep eludes you, it is not a punishment. It is an invitation to go deeper. Every discomfort, every delay, every wound carries a hidden opportunity to practice the art of endurance. Tonight, in the silence, you practice that art gently, with grace. You may be tempted to think this is too simple, that listening while you sleep cannot change you. But remember, change does not always announce itself. Sometimes it enters like a whisper and grows like a flame. This night, as your body rests, your mind listens. It hears that suffering is a teacher, not a thief, that what you fear cannot hurt you unless you let it, that peace is found not by removing chaos, but by becoming immune to its sting. These ideas, repeated softly, become truths lived boldly. Every breath now is a vow. I will endure, not because I must, but because I can, not because life demands it, but because I choose it. The Stoic life is one of radical ownership. No one will save you from your emotions. No one will rescue you from pain, but you do not need rescue. You need resolve. Let that resolve take root in you tonight. Let it speak louder than the voices of fear and doubt. You are stronger than you know, and that strength begins with endurance. Lesson 2. Control begins where illusion ends. You are not your job. You are not your status, nor your possessions, nor even the fleeting opinions others form of you. The Stoics insist again and again. What truly belongs to you is your reasoned choice, your moral purpose, your ability to distinguish between what you control and what you do not. Everything else is on loan from the world, and what the world gives, it can take. Sleep is a teacher of this truth. Each night, you release control. Each night, you surrender willingly to a state where power, identity, and status vanish. And still, you survive, you wake up, you rise again. So tonight, remember this: what you fear losing may not truly be yours. Epictetus would say, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it, but I have returned it.'" In the quiet hours, as your breath deepens and your body softens, ask yourself, what have you clung to that causes your suffering? What illusion has wrapped itself around your identity? Perhaps it's the need to always be right. Perhaps it's the expectation of comfort or the approval of others. These are not possessions, they are traps. The Stoic does not seek to dominate the world, but to master the self. Control is not about bending the external to your will. It is about aligning your will with what is. In your sleep, your ego fades. There is no one to impress. There is nothing to achieve. You are simply present. In this space, clarity becomes possible. The fog of striving lifts. You see the truth of things, that control, properly understood, is internal. It is a relationship between your perception and your action. Consider this. Two people face the same storm. One curses the sky, rages against the rain, and calls life unfair. The other closes their eyes, feels the water on their skin, and says, "I did not choose the storm, but I choose my response." Both experience the same event, but only one is free. That freedom, that sovereign inner domain, is the foundation of Stoicism. And tonight, as the world sleeps, you reclaim that domain, breath by breath, thought by thought. Let go now of the need to control what lies outside you. The words someone said, the mistakes you made, the pain that arrived without warning, these are not within your reach, but how you hold them, that is yours. That is your power. You cannot rewrite yesterday. You cannot predict tomorrow. But in this exact moment, you can choose how to relate to both. And that choice, that single quiet decision, is your greatest strength. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the universe is nothing but change, and our lives are shaped by the quality of our thoughts. This idea is at once liberating and demanding, because it places responsibility not in the external world, but in the way we choose to think about it. Every moment, our inner dialogue either enslaves us or sets us free. If we hold tightly to false beliefs, such as that our worth depends on others or that we must constantly succeed, we imprison ourselves. If instead we align our thoughts with reason, we step into real freedom. The universe is constant motion. Nothing remains fixed. Empires fall, seasons pass, relationships transform, bodies age, and even our emotions are fleeting. To resist this law of impermanence is to fight against nature itself. Marcus Aurelius insisted that acceptance of change was essential to wisdom. By remembering that both joy and sorrow are temporary, we learn not to cling to either. The grief that seems unbearable today will eventually loosen its grip. The victory we enjoy now will fade with time. To live well is to embrace this flux with composure. Thought is the tool with which we interpret change. Two people can face the same misfortune, yet one becomes embittered while the other grows stronger. What differs is not the event itself, but the meaning each person assigns to it. This is why Marcus wrote that life is what our thoughts make it. The mind is not a passive mirror of events, but an active shaper of reality. When we allow distorted thinking to govern us, we suffer unnecessarily. When we discipline our thoughts, we discover resilience. The chains of false belief are subtle yet heavy. To think that our value depends on others' approval is to hand over our freedom to shifting opinions. Public praise can lift us up, but it can just as quickly vanish, leaving us empty. True dignity must be rooted in the self, not in the applause of the crowd. Similarly, to believe that we must always win, always succeed, always appear strong, is to place ourselves under a tyrant within. This inner tyrant demands constant achievement, constant display, constant denial of weakness. It robs us of peace, for it never rests. Real freedom begins with harmony with reason. Reason shows us the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Our actions, choices, and judgments belong to us. The outcomes, the opinions of others, the turning of fortune, these do not. When we live in accordance with this truth, we cease to fight battles that cannot be won. We direct our energy to virtue, to integrity, to justice. Everything else we allow to flow as it will. In that, surrender is not weakness, but strength, for it aligns us with the nature of the universe. This freedom requires daily practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations as exercises for the self, reminders he needed to revisit again and again. He knew that memory fades, that emotions cloud judgment, that power and ambition tempt the soul. So he trained his mind like a soldier trains his body. Each day he reminded himself of the same truths, that insult cannot harm him unless he consents, that loss is part of nature's order, that death is neither good nor evil, but inevitable. Through repetition, he cultivated the habit of freedom. To practice this ourselves, we must examine the voices within. When we feel anxious, what belief fuels that anxiety? Often, it is the thought that we must control what lies beyond us. When we feel inferior, what belief drives it? Likely the idea that our worth is conditional upon comparison. These beliefs are not truths, but errors in reasoning. The discipline of philosophy is to uncover them, challenge them, and let them go. Letting go is an art. It is not indifference or apathy, but a conscious release of what cannot be held. We cannot keep time from passing, so we let go of our demand that it should stop. We cannot force others to value us, so we let go of our craving for universal approval. We cannot guarantee success, so we let go of the illusion that failure diminishes our essence. To let go is to free the hand so that life can flow through it, instead of clenching until we bleed. True strength emerges not from pretending to be invulnerable, but from accepting our fragility with dignity. A person who admits weakness without shame is freer than one who hides behind a mask of perfection. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He wept for losses, felt fatigue, and doubted himself, yet he did not allow those experiences to define him. Strength for the Stoic is not never falling, but rising with calm resolve each time we fall. To live by these principles is not easy, but it is profoundly human. Freedom is not given by fortune, wealth, or status. It is forged in the discipline of thought. Each day, we are offered the choice to be slaves to illusion or to be masters of ourselves. To walk with reason is to walk with freedom, even in chains, even in hardship. And that freedom is the highest good Marcus Aurelius sought, the good that remains when all else changes. Even as you rest, your mind can begin this practice. Imagine now a situation that bothers you, a tension, a worry, a fear. Hold it lightly in your awareness. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, then repeat softly, let it go. And if the answer is yes, then say, let me face it with courage. This is the mental training of the Stoic. Not dramatic, not theatrical, but constant, deliberate, faithful. Night after night, you build the muscle of discernment. There is a reason Stoicism has survived for centuries, because life has always been uncertain, people have always betrayed, plans have always failed, and time has always been fleeting. Yet amid all of it, the Stoic stands firm, not by changing the world, but by changing how they meet it. And now, in this night, you prepare yourself to meet tomorrow, not with dread, but with readiness, not with anxiety, but with poise. That is your gift to yourself. Control is not about perfection. It is not about always getting it right. Even Marcus failed. Even Seneca hesitated. But they returned again and again to the central truth. We are responsible for our judgments. And from our judgments flow our emotions, our reactions, our peace. So, if peace has eluded you, perhaps your judgments need attention. Not punishment, not shame, but inspection. Patient, honest, kind inspection. That is what this night is for. Think of your mind as a garden. Thoughts arise like seeds. Some bear fruit, others bring weeds. You cannot control which seeds land, but you can choose which to water. Tonight, water only what brings clarity. Water only what nourishes character. Let the rest wither without your attention. That is control. That is Stoic wisdom lived in practice, even in sleep. Lesson 3. Emotions are messengers, not masters. There is a common misconception, especially outside the philosophy, that Stoicism is about feeling nothing, becoming cold, unfeeling, indifferent to all that makes us human. But this is a distortion. The true Stoic does not reject emotion. The Stoic understands it, listens to it, and ultimately governs it. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They point to judgments, and it is those judgments that must be examined. Tonight, as you lie in stillness, let this idea reshape the way you view your inner life. You felt anger today, perhaps, or sadness. Maybe anxiety wrapped itself around your thoughts and pulled them tight. These feelings are not signs of failure. They are signals. But if you mistake them for commands, if you obey them blindly, then you surrender the one thing the Stoic must never give up: agency. Remember the teaching of Epictetus. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. You are not angry because of what happened. You are angry because of how you interpreted what happened. That difference is everything. So what do we do with this knowledge? We begin gently by listening. When a feeling arises, even in sleep, even in dreams, we do not push it away, nor do we feed it. We watch. We ask, what story am I telling myself right now? And then we ask, is that story true? Often it is not. Often it is old. Often it belongs to a version of us that no longer needs it. And so we let it go. Not with violence, not with shame, but with awareness. That is Stoic practice. The Stoics understood that emotion follows judgment the way shadow follows form. And so, to change how we feel, we must change how we see. That does not happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through silence, through reflection. Tonight, in this quiet space between thoughts, Begin that change. Notice the feelings that linger: fear, regret, envy. Hold them like stones in your hand. Observe their weight. Ask where they came from. Then ask, do I need to carry them into tomorrow? You do not. You can set them down, not by denying them, but by seeing through them. Envy says, they have something I don't. The Stoic replies, they have what the universe gave them. I have what it gave me, and I will make the most of mine. Fear says, I cannot handle what's coming. The Stoic replies, I will face it when it arrives, not a moment sooner. Regret says, I should have done better. The Stoic replies, then I will do better now. Let those responses echo in your mind as you rest. Let them become your default replies, your internal reflexes. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to feel wisely, to respond instead of react, to understand that emotions are like weather, real, yes, but not permanent. You do not curse the rain. You learn how to walk through it, with a coat, with patience, with dignity. Let that be your emotional posture from this night forward. As you breathe, remember, Marcus Aurelius felt sorrow, Seneca felt frustration, Epictetus, beaten and enslaved, surely felt rage. But none of them let those feelings define them. They practiced what we now practice, the art of noticing without clinging. They let emotions speak, but not command. And you now, in this hour of rest, join that lineage. You are not suppressing, you are mastering. You are not closing off, you are opening wisely. This mastery begins with space, the space between stimulus and response. That space is where choice lives. Most people never find it. They move from feeling to action without pause. But not you, not tonight. You are training the space, expanding it, making it a sanctuary of reason. When you feel frustration rise, you will not lash out. When you feel fear whisper, you will not collapse. You will wait, breathe, choose. That is freedom. That is virtue. That is what the Stoic pursues. And it is cultivated in moments like this, slow, quiet, deliberate moments. Sleep becomes sacred, not because it is escape, but because it is preparation. You are not running from the world. You are returning to it better equipped. Emotions will come. You will feel them, but you will remain master of your house. Lesson 4. Death is not to be feared, but understood. There is perhaps no truth more certain and more avoided than this. You will die. I will die. Everyone you love, everything you build, every breath you take is moving toward an end. The Stoics, unlike many, did not flinch from this reality. They did not hide it behind ritual or denial. They brought it close. They examined it. They made peace with it, not out of morbidity, but out of clarity. Tonight, as your body rests, allow this truth to come near. Not to disturb your sleep, but to sharpen your life. We fear death because we misunderstand it. We imagine it as loss, as punishment, as darkness. But the Stoics saw it as nature, as part of the same cycle that gives us morning after night, spring after winter, silence after sound. Death is not an interruption. It is a continuation. And fearing it does not delay it. It only clouds the moments we are still alive. Right now, in this calm hour, remember that every heartbeat is a privilege. Every breath is a gift. To meditate on death is to honor life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was not gloom. It was guidance. When you hold death close, you let go of trivial things, petty arguments, shallow ambitions, endless comparison. When death is far, we waste time. When death is near, not in panic but in presence, we use time. And that is the Stoic's greatest power, the ability to live urgently yet peacefully. As you drift into deeper rest, reflect. What would you do differently if you knew you had fewer days than you think? Who would you forgive? What would you stop chasing? What would you finally allow yourself to feel? These are not hypothetical questions. They are tools for awakening. The Stoic uses them not to brood, but to awaken to purpose. Death, then, is not the end. It is the mirror. It shows us who we are and who we are pretending to be. You are not wrong to fear death. You are human, but you are also capable of outgrowing that fear. Not by pretending you'll live forever, not by distracting yourself with pleasure, but by leaning into the truth with eyes wide open. The fear fades when you make peace with what cannot be avoided. That is what this practice is, not morbid but mature, not dark but freeing. You're not meditating on death to run from life, but to return to it more awake. Think now of the things you postpone, the words you've held back, the dreams you delay. What if tomorrow never comes? Would you regret waiting? Would you regret silence? This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to liberate you. The Stoic wastes no day. The Stoic does not rush, but neither does he hesitate. He lives with intention because he knows intention is the only time we truly possess. Let death strip away what does not matter. Let it remind you that time is not promised. Let it sharpen your love, your choices, your presence. When you look clearly at death, you no longer fear rejection, because pride no longer controls you. You no longer fear change, because you know everything is already changing. You no longer fear stillness, because you know how to rest inside your own being. Tonight, as your body surrenders to sleep, let your soul surrender to truth. You are alive, and one day you won't be. That is not a curse. That is a reason to live better, wiser, calmer, braver. The Stoic does not fear death because he has nothing to hide. He has lived fully. He has forgiven quickly. He has spoken truth. And so when death arrives, it does not take him by surprise. It meets him ready. You can be ready too. Not in a day, not with one thought, but with practice. With this practice, right now, you are not escaping death. You are preparing for life. Each moment of stillness, each whispered reflection, each quiet act of courage becomes a step toward peace, toward dignity, toward freedom. And that is what the Stoic life offers, not safety, but strength. Lesson 5. Tranquility is built through discipline, not escape. We all want peace. We all seek moments of calm, inner clarity, and silence from the constant demands of life. It is a universal desire woven into the human condition, regardless of culture, status, or time. Peace is the common dream of the emperor and the servant, of the scholar and the soldier, of the parent and the child. Yet as natural as this longing is, few people are truly willing to do what peace requires. Most look for it in comfort, in retreat, in distractions that dull the noise of the world for a fleeting moment. But the Stoics remind us that tranquility is not given. It is earned. And it is not earned through ease, but through effort, not through escape, but through discipline. In Stoicism, peace is the fruit of aligning your actions and your judgments with reason. It is not a prize granted by fortune or by the approval of others. It is not the absence of difficulty, nor the possession of everything you desire. Peace is a state of inner order, where the mind no longer contradicts itself, no longer clings to what is outside its power, no longer rebels against the course of nature. Such peace cannot be bought, stolen, or bestowed. It must be built within, one thought at a time, one choice at a time. This work is not glamorous. It does not announce itself with applause or spectacle. It is not loud, nor is it often praised. Indeed, much of the world despises it, for it appears too plain, too quiet, too modest. And yet it is powerful, more powerful than wealth, stronger than reputation, more secure than the fleeting highs of pleasure. For when the storms of life inevitably come, possessions can be lost, honors revoked, pleasures turned bitter. But the disciplined mind, trained in reason, remains unmoved, carrying its peace like a fortress within. Consider how often people confuse peace with indulgence. They say, if only I could escape to a quiet place, I would be at rest. If only I had more wealth, more time, more freedom, I would be serene. Yet when they obtain these things, their minds remain restless. Why? Because the noise was never outside. It was within. The one who has not trained his thoughts will carry his chaos with him wherever he goes. As Seneca once wrote, "You must change the mind, not the place." Peace does not arise from changing the scenery, but from changing the self. The Stoics taught that the mind must be governed with discipline, as a city must be governed with law. Left without guidance, it is overrun by passions, desires, fears, and illusions. These intruders disrupt tranquility, just as riots disturb a city. Discipline is the guard at the gates, the order that keeps the commonwealth of the soul intact. It is the conscious choice to act according to reason, to live in harmony with what is natural and just, to refuse to surrender to irrational impulses. Such discipline is not learned once and for all. It is a practice renewed daily. Each morning we awaken to the same battle between order and disorder, between clarity and confusion. Each evening we must take stock. Did we act with integrity, or did we allow anger, envy, and fear to rule us? This examination of the self is essential. Without it, we drift. With it, we steer. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, at dawn, remind yourself that the people you encounter will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but none of them can harm you if you do not permit it. Such preparation is itself a form of discipline, training the mind to expect difficulty and to remain unshaken when it comes. Night is perhaps the ideal time for this training. The day has ended. The clamor of tasks and obligations has ceased. In bed, still and open, the mind is stripped of distractions. It is here that we can examine ourselves with honesty. Did we act today as we intended? Did we uphold reason, or did we betray it? Did we let anger speak where patience was called for? Did we allow envy to poison our joy? Did we cling to outcomes that were never within our control? These questions are not meant to condemn us, but to refine us. Reflection is the sharpening stone of the soul, preparing us for tomorrow's challenges. Yet many resist such reflection. They fear silence, for in silence they must face themselves. They drown their nights in noise, in endless entertainment, in constant scrolling, in conversations that mean nothing. They believe this is rest, but it is not. It is avoidance. True peace is not found in distraction, but in confrontation, in the honest meeting between one's actions and one's ideals. To look in the mirror of reason is difficult, but it is the only path to tranquility. Tranquility for the Stoics is not passivity. It is not withdrawal from the world. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Epictetus taught despite being a slave. Seneca advised emperors while writing about simplicity. Their peace was not the peace of withdrawal, but the peace of inner mastery. They engaged with life fully, but without being enslaved by it. They loved, worked, fought, taught, and suffered, yet through it all, they remained anchored in reason. This shows us that peace is not fragile, not easily disturbed. It is not something we must protect by fleeing the world, but something we must cultivate so deeply that the world cannot take it away. This cultivation requires courage. To face one's own mind is no small task. It is often easier to accuse the world of robbing us of peace than to admit that we ourselves have surrendered it. It is easier to blame circumstance, fortune, or other people, but the Stoic asks us to reclaim responsibility. No one can steal our peace without our consent. If we are disturbed, it is because we allowed an opinion, a fear, or a desire to dominate us. Freedom begins when we recognize this truth. And freedom, for the Stoics, is inseparable from peace. To be free is not merely to do as one pleases, but to live as reason dictates. A person ruled by passion is not free, no matter how much power they appear to hold. A person content with little, steady in thought, and in harmony with nature, that person is free even in chains. Tranquility is therefore not a luxury, but the very essence of freedom. It is what makes us masters of ourselves. Think of the nightly training in this light. As you lie in bed, you are rehearsing your freedom. You are examining the day not to punish yourself, but to strengthen your control over the only domain that truly belongs to you, your mind. Each insight, each honest admission, each vow to do better tomorrow is a victory in the silent war for peace. This is why the Stoics valued self-examination so highly. It transforms the ordinary act of lying down to sleep into a sacred exercise of the soul. The fruits of this discipline are not immediate, and that is why many abandon the path. They want peace now, without effort, as if it were a gift that could be delivered. But Stoic tranquility is gradual, like the strengthening of a muscle. With each day of practice, the mind grows steadier. With each reflection, it grows clearer. With each act of reason, it grows freer. Over time, you find that what once disturbed you no longer has power. Insults lose their sting, losses lose their terror, and pleasures lose their chains. You move through the world with calmness because you have built within yourself an unshakable citadel. This citadel is not made of stone or walls, but of principles. It is built by knowing that the external world is change and that your judgments are your own. It is guarded by the understanding that what is not within your control should not dominate your peace, and it is adorned with the virtues that the Stoics held highest: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Together, these form the architecture of the tranquil mind. Peace, then, is not passive but active. It is not the absence of work, but the presence of discipline. It is not a retreat from life, but an engagement with it on higher terms. The tranquil person does not avoid difficulty, but meets it with clarity. They do not demand constant success, but accept failure as a teacher. They do not chase after approval, but rest in the dignity of virtue. Their peace is earned, and because it is earned, it cannot be taken away. This is why the Stoics continue to speak to us today. In a world as restless and noisy as ours, where distractions multiply and demands never cease, the need for tranquility is greater than ever. Yet the path remains the same: the discipline of thought, the harmony with reason, the nightly training of the soul. No app, no possession, no escape can replace this. Peace cannot be outsourced. It must be built within. So as you lie in bed tonight, remember, you are in the ideal state to train for peace. The world is quiet, the day has ended, and your mind is bare. Do not run from this silence. Enter it. Examine your thoughts honestly. Release what does not belong to you. Strengthen what is within your control. Align yourself once more with reason. This is the quiet labor of the Stoic, unseen and uncelebrated, yet it is the most powerful work you can do. For it is the work that leads step by step to the only peace worth having, the peace that cannot be lost. Peace is not the absence of noise. Peace is the result of order. Order in your thoughts, order in your choices, order in your values. Seneca wrote that a mind in harmony with itself is the greatest possession. But harmony does not happen on accident. It must be shaped through reflection, through restraint, through repetition. In this moment, consider, how many times have you chased peace through escape, through distraction, through avoidance? And how often did that peace vanish the moment you returned to reality? That is because real peace does not come from what you flee, but from what you face. When you stop running, you can begin to build. That is what you do now. Not with effort, but with openness, with intention. The Stoic does not avoid difficulty. He walks into it with calm, because he has trained. Because he knows that anything he can survive, he can transform. That transformation begins not in action, but in attention. What do you pay attention to as you fall asleep? Is it regret, anxiety, anger? These are not your enemies, but neither are they your guides. If left unchecked, they will take you far from peace, but if observed and examined, they will point you back toward reason. The Stoic uses every emotion, every thought, every trigger as material. Nothing is wasted, not even rest. Especially not rest. Discipline then is not harshness. It is not a cold or merciless demand to crush yourself into obedience. It is not the voice that shames you for weakness or condemns you for drifting. Discipline, properly understood, is care. It is the care of the soul, the daily attention you give to your own mind so that it remains healthy, balanced, and clear. It is clarity, the quiet recognition of what is within your control and what is not, of what serves your peace and what destroys it. Most of all, discipline is the quiet decision to return to yourself, again and again, no matter how many times you drift away. Drifting is inevitable. The mind is not a stone fixed in one place, but a river that flows constantly. Thoughts rise and fall, attention wavers, fears intrude, desires tempt. To demand that the mind never drift is to demand that water stand still, but to know how to return, to know how to gently guide yourself back to reason and virtue, is the art of discipline. The Stoic does not imagine a flawless constancy of thought, but he does train himself in the habit of return. Tonight, you may drift into worry. As you lie in bed, your mind may race toward tomorrow, inventing troubles that may never come, rehearsing conversations that may never take place, replaying failures that no longer exist. This is natural. Worry is the mind's attempt to control the uncontrollable, to grasp the shadows of the future as though they were already here. But when you notice yourself drifting into worry, do not scold yourself. Do not call yourself weak. Simply return. Remind yourself that tomorrow belongs to tomorrow, that the future is not yet given, and that your strength lies in this present breath. Each time you return, you demonstrate that worry does not own you. You may drift into distraction. Your thoughts may scatter into fantasies, idle curiosities, or the restless pursuit of stimulation. Perhaps you reach for your device, for some fragment of entertainment, for some noise to drown the silence. That is fine. You are human, and the mind naturally wanders. But when you see the drift, return. Each return is a quiet triumph, a reminder that you can reclaim your attention. Distraction may visit you, but it does not rule you. By choosing to return, you strengthen your freedom. You may drift into regret. Your mind may replay mistakes, conversations you wish you had handled differently, paths you did not take. Regret will whisper that you should have done better, that you have failed, that peace is impossible because the past is fixed against you. But the past is beyond your reach. Only the present is yours. So when you drift into regret, return. Accept what has been, learn from it, and let it be fuel for wiser choices tomorrow. Each return transforms regret into growth. Discipline is not the eradication of drifting, but the cultivation of returning. This is the heart of Stoic practice. To come back 1,000 times is not weakness but strength. For each return proves that you are awake, that you are watching, that you refuse to surrender your mind entirely to passion or distraction. Every return, however small, is an act of self-command. It is the reminder that your thoughts belong to you and you can guide them toward peace. This is why discipline is not harshness. Harshness shouts, condemns, and demands perfection. Harshness says, you must never drift. If you fail, you are worthless. But care says you will drift because you are human, and each time you drift, you will return because you are capable of reason. Clarity does not require cruelty. The gardener does not scream at the weeds. He quietly removes them and tends the soil again. So it must be with your soul. Each return is a victory. It is easy to overlook these victories because they are small and silent. No one applauds you for letting go of a worry in the dark of night. No one praises you for choosing to release a regret and focus on the present. No one cheers when you resist the urge to be carried away by distraction. Yet each of these small acts builds the foundation of a tranquil mind. Just as a wall is built stone by stone, peace is built return by return. Each return is a moment of growth. You may not notice the growth at once, just as you may not notice a tree rising day by day. But over time, the practice transforms you. What once disturbed you greatly will disturb you less. What once consumed hours of your thought will consume only minutes, then seconds, until it no longer binds you at all. The discipline of returning strengthens the mind gradually, like the training of a muscle. The work is quiet, but the results are powerful. Tranquility is not built all at once. It is not a sudden prize you stumble upon, complete and unshakable. It is built one breath at a time. Each breath is a chance to notice where your mind has wandered, and each breath is a chance to guide it back. The present moment is always available to you, no matter how far you have drifted. Even if you wander for hours, even if you lose yourself in distraction or fear, the return can happen in a single instant. Peace is always one breath away. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to return to the present, to return to reason, to return to the awareness of his own mortality and the fleeting nature of all things. His meditations are filled with these returns, written not for others, but for himself. They are proof that even an emperor burdened with responsibilities and surrounded by temptations needed to return again and again to clarity. If Marcus drifted, and if Marcus returned, why should we expect anything different of ourselves? Epictetus, too, spoke often of discipline. Born a slave, he did not imagine freedom as the absence of external chains, but as the mastery of the mind. He taught that freedom lies in governing your judgments, not in controlling the world. This teaching is itself a call to return. When you drift into anger at what you cannot change, return to what you can. When you drift into longing for what does not belong to you, return to the power you do possess, your reasoned choice. His entire philosophy was an education in returning. Seneca, writing to his friends, urged them to take stock each night of how they had lived the day. This was another form of returning. By reviewing one's actions, by examining where one had drifted and how one could do better tomorrow, the mind is brought back into alignment. Seneca did not expect perfection. He expected honesty, humility, and the willingness to try again. That is discipline in its truest sense. We may be tempted to think of discipline as deprivation, as a joyless denial of life. But the Stoic knows that discipline is what allows for true joy, because it prevents us from being enslaved by passions that ultimately destroy us. Without discipline, we are pulled endlessly by fear, anger, envy, and desire. With discipline, we return to ourselves, and from this return flows a deeper happiness, the happiness of a mind at peace. It is important to see that this peace is not sterile or lifeless. It is not the dull calm of apathy, but the vibrant calm of presence. A disciplined mind is alive to the world, awake to its duties, attentive to its relationships. It feels grief, but it does not collapse under it. It feels joy, but it does not cling desperately to it. It feels fear, but it does not become paralyzed by it. Discipline allows us to feel fully without being destroyed by our feelings. This balance is the essence of tranquility. And so tonight, as you lie in bed, let discipline be your companion. Do not imagine it as a stern overseer, but as a caring guide. Notice when you drift into worry, into distraction, into regret. Do not condemn yourself for drifting, simply return. Each return is a chance to grow, a chance to strengthen your peace. Each return is another step toward the freedom the Stoics cherished. This is the work of a lifetime, but it is always available in this moment, in this breath. Tranquility is not built on harshness, but on care. It is not built in great leaps, but in small returns. It is not built in perfection, but in persistence. Tonight, you will drift. That is fine. Tomorrow, you will drift again. That, too, is fine. What matters is that you return, and that in each return you prove to yourself that you are free. With reason as your compass and virtue as your destination, you will build a peace that no storm can shatter. Let go of the belief that you must do something extraordinary to be at peace. You do not need a perfect life. You need a trained mind. You do not need perfect circumstances. You need perspective. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world and still had to remind himself daily to remain calm, to resist anger, to return to virtue. If even he required constant practice, then so will we. And that is not failure. That is the path. The modern world encourages restlessness. It tells us that movement is everything, that stillness is waste, that value lies in constant activity. It sells stimulation in every form, the endless stream of notifications, the glowing screen that never sleeps, the demands of productivity, the invitations to comparison. It glorifies the busy, the hurried, the one who never pauses long enough to breathe. To be restless is to be normal. To be overstimulated is to be alive. At least that is the story it tells. Yet, the Stoic steps back. The Stoic questions. The Stoic resists. The Stoic says, I will not be mastered by external noise. I will choose what I let in. I will choose how I react. I will choose where I place my attention. These are not grand proclamations shouted into the world, but quiet truths repeated to oneself. They are reminders that the mind is sovereign, that no torrent of stimulation can rule you unless you surrender. The modern world has its temptations, but your inner citadel remains yours, and the Stoic insists on defending it. Peace, then, is not the absence of sound around you, but the presence of clarity within you. You could live in the busiest city, surrounded by the clamor of millions, and still be tranquil if your mind is steady. You could also live in a secluded retreat and still be restless if your mind is scattered. The source of unrest is not the world, but the thoughts you permit to dominate you. The source of peace is not retreat alone, but the discipline of choosing what to let in and what to let pass by. The modern world thrives on distraction. Its economy depends on the capture of your attention, on fragmenting your focus into ever smaller pieces. It whispers that you must always be connected, always be informed, always be entertained. But to live this way is to scatter your soul. It is to allow your mind to be pulled apart until it no longer belongs to you. The Stoic recognizes this danger. He sees that the cost of constant stimulation is the loss of clarity, and the price of endless busyness is the neglect of the self. So he practices the art of stepping back, of reclaiming his attention as his own. To reclaim attention is to reclaim freedom. For what is freedom if not the ability to govern oneself rather than be governed by impulse or manipulation? If your thoughts are shaped entirely by the noise around you, you are not free. If your peace rises and falls with every headline, every comment, every notification, you are not free. But if you can pause, if you can choose what deserves your focus and what does not, then you are free, no matter the world outside. This is why attention is sacred. This is why discipline of attention is the root of peace. The Stoic cultivates this discipline not in harshness, but in care. He does not demand that the world be silent, but he chooses to be silent within it. He does not demand that all stimulation cease, but he chooses what he will allow into his mind. He does not demand that life slow down, but he chooses not to be swept away by its pace. This discipline is not glamorous. It is not admired in the same way as constant busyness, yet it produces a fruit that busyness never can: tranquility. Tranquility is not passivity. It is not laziness or escape. It is not the dull emptiness of one who has withdrawn from life. Tranquility is strength. It is the inner steadiness of one who engages fully with life, but refuses to be enslaved by it. The Stoic does not run from responsibilities, he fulfills them. He does not ignore the world, he participates in it. But he does so with a calm center, with a mind that knows how to return to silence, even in the midst of noise. This is the peace that discipline brings. In cultivating this peace, stillness becomes essential. Stillness is the workshop of discipline, the place where the mind learns to stand on its own without being fed constant stimulation. In stillness, you confront yourself. You see your thoughts as they are without distraction to cover them. At first, this can be uncomfortable. The restless mind does not enjoy silence, for silence reveals its chaos. But with practice, silence becomes a friend. Stillness becomes a teacher. In stillness, you discover that you are not dependent on noise. You discover that your mind, once trained, is enough. Rest, too, is essential. Not the restless rest of constant entertainment, but true rest. The letting go of striving, the release of tension, the willingness to simply be. In rest, you allow your mind to recover its strength, your body to recover its balance, your soul to recover its clarity. The modern world scorns rest, calling it laziness, and demands constant output. But the Stoic knows that rest is part of discipline. For without rest, judgment falters, clarity fades, and peace is lost. Rest is not indulgence, but wisdom. In silence, in rest, in stillness, you are cultivating the roots of peace. This cultivation is not loud or dramatic. It is not announced on the stage of the world. It is done quietly, inwardly, patiently. Each time you choose not to be swept away by external noise, you strengthen your freedom. Each time you resist the lure of busyness for its own sake, you strengthen your clarity. Each time you sit still and return to yourself, you strengthen your tranquility. These small acts, repeated daily, shape the soul into something unshakable. The fruit of discipline is not immediate, and so many abandon it. They expect peace to arrive in a single moment of stillness, and when it does not, they return to noise. But tranquility is gradual. It grows slowly, like a tree nourished by small and consistent choices. Each moment of silence adds strength to its roots. Each act of attention waters its growth. Each evening of rest allows it to rise taller. With time, the tree becomes sturdy, capable of withstanding storms. This is the work you are doing now, in silence, in rest, in stillness. You are planting, tending, growing. To resist the modern world's pull toward restlessness is itself an act of courage. It is easier to be swept along with the current of noise. It is easier to busy yourself endlessly, to distract yourself constantly, to fill every silence with stimulation. But the Stoic chooses the harder path, the path of restraint, of clarity, of self-command. He chooses to live deliberately, not reactively. He chooses to govern his own mind rather than surrender it to the marketplace of distractions. This courage does not appear dramatic, but it is profound. It is the courage to be still in a world addicted to motion. The rewards of this courage are deep. With discipline, the mind becomes calmer, the heart steadier, the spirit freer. The noise of the world does not vanish, but it loses its power. You can hear it without being ruled by it. You can participate in life without being consumed by it. You can walk through the busy streets with serenity because you carry stillness within. This is the true victory of the Stoic, not to escape the world, but to master oneself within it. And so tonight, as you sit in silence, as you rest, As you practice stillness, remember that you are not wasting time. You are not doing nothing. You are cultivating the very roots of peace. You are strengthening your ability to live freely in a restless age. You are practicing the art of attention, the discipline of choice, the wisdom of return. Each moment of silence is a victory. Each act of rest is a triumph. Each breath of stillness is a step toward tranquility. The modern world may continue to glorify busyness, to sell stimulation, to encourage restlessness. That is its nature, and you cannot change it. But you can change yourself. You can step back. You can question. You can refuse to be mastered by external noise. You can choose what you let in. You can choose how you react. You can choose where you place your attention. And in that choice lies everything. That is the root of peace. That is the fruit of discipline. And that is what you are cultivating now, in silence, in rest, in stillness. You may think discipline is only for the day, for action, for movement, but it is also for sleep, for thought, for pause. Let this moment be a form of discipline, not force, but focus. As you listen, let your mind settle where it chooses. Let thoughts come and go without judgment. Let the deeper part of you, the rational, calm, enduring part, begin to lead. That is your true self. That is the Stoic self. Peace built on discipline cannot be taken. It does not depend on mood. It does not depend on others. It is yours because you've earned it, because you've chosen it, and in choosing it, you become something rare. Not just someone who knows what is right, but someone who lives it. Not just in moments of calm, but in moments of pressure. And that, in the end, is the essence of Stoicism. To live in alignment with nature, with reason, with virtue, no matter the weather around you. Now rest with this in mind. You are not here to escape life. You are here to meet it with stillness. You are not here to run from discomfort. You are here to use it as fuel, and you are not here to wait for peace. You are here to practice it, with each breath, with each thought, with each return. This is the work, this is the way, and you are already on it. You have made it this far, not by accident, but by willingness. Willingness is the beginning of all growth. You did not arrive here because life arranged itself in perfect order for you. You arrived because, in the midst of imperfection, you chose to remain. You gave yourself to reflection, to practice, to presence. 2 hours have passed, not lost to distraction, but dedicated to the shaping of the self. That alone is a victory. In a world that glorifies noise, you have chosen silence. In a world that sells distraction, you have chosen focus. In a world that teaches you to run from pain, you have chosen to face it directly. And that, more than knowledge, more than talent, more than any external achievement, is what defines strength. Strength is not the privilege of fortune. It is the fruit of willingness. What you have done tonight is not merely listen, not merely think, but prepare. You have prepared yourself for life. For life is always coming, always approaching with its trials and blessings, with its demands and surprises. It will meet you tomorrow, just as it met you yesterday, uncertain, changing, indifferent to your plans. But you will not meet it the same. You are more centered now. You are clearer now. You are calmer now. You have taken time to remember what is within your control and what is not, what belongs to you and what does not, what strengthens you and what weakens you. And so tomorrow, when life arrives again, you will be ready to meet it not as a victim, but as a participant. The willingness you have shown tonight is rare. Most people flee from silence because silence reveals their unrest. They avoid reflection because reflection uncovers their errors. They despise stillness because stillness shows them what they fear. But you have not fled, you have remained. That act, simple as it may seem, is the foundation of freedom. For what enslaves us most is not the world, but our refusal to face ourselves. Tonight, you faced yourself. You looked inward. You returned to reason. This is no small task. It is the greatest work a human being can undertake. Knowledge alone does not bring peace. Talent alone does not bring strength. External achievements, however grand, do not make a person free. These things may decorate life, but they do not anchor it. Without willingness, without discipline, without presence, they collapse. Many who possess knowledge live anxiously. Many who possess talent waste it in distraction. Many who possess achievement remain empty. But the one who cultivates willingness, the one who practices the daily art of aligning thought with reason, that person builds something that cannot be taken away. That person builds character. That person builds peace. You have prepared yourself for life, and life will test that preparation. Do not imagine that tonight's calm will guarantee tomorrow's ease. It will not. The world will still confront you with challenges. Someone may insult you, plans may fail, pain may return, fear may whisper, but that is not a cause for despair. That is the very reason for your practice. The work you have done tonight is not to avoid storms, but to prepare yourself to sail through them. When difficulty arrives, you will not be surprised. You will say, "I knew this would come. I trained for this." And in that calm acknowledgement lies your strength. Life will also bring blessings, and those too must be met with preparation. For blessings can deceive as much as trials can wound. Success can intoxicate. Pleasure can enslave. Praise can mislead. The unprepared soul clings to these and suffers when they vanish, as all external things eventually do. But you have trained tonight to see them clearly. You will accept blessings with gratitude, but without dependence. You will enjoy them without chaining your worth to them. You will receive them as gifts of fortune, not as possessions of the self. In this way, you will remain free, even in abundance. Freedom is the fruit of this training. Not the freedom to control the world, but the freedom to govern yourself. You are freer now because you have remembered that peace is not given by circumstances, but by choice. You have remembered that the interpretation you give to events matters more than the events themselves. You have remembered that attention is your most precious possession, and you alone decide where to place it. This remembrance is strength. It is the mark of one who is alive to reason, awake to the present, and unwilling to be enslaved by what lies beyond his control. Do not underestimate the power of these small choices. To sit in silence when the world urges noise is no small thing. To reflect when the world urges distraction is no small thing. To face pain when the world urges escape is no small thing. Each of these choices shapes the soul. Each choice is a return to your true self. Each choice builds the foundation of tranquility. Over time, the accumulation of these choices forms a character unshakable by fortune, steady in both joy and sorrow, calm in both abundance and loss. What you are cultivating tonight is not just peace, but mastery. Mastery not over others, not over nature, not over the shifting tides of fortune, but mastery over yourself. To know yourself, to govern your thoughts, to choose your actions with clarity. This is mastery. It is not visible to the crowd. It is not celebrated with applause, but it is more valuable than any power the world can bestow. For external power may be lost in an instant, but mastery of the self remains as long as you live. And this mastery does not make you less human. It makes you more. To be tossed endlessly by passions, to be ruled by every desire, to be broken by every loss. That is to live half awake, barely conscious of your own power, but to feel fully and yet to choose wisely, to suffer but not be destroyed, to rejoice but not be enslaved. That is true humanity. The Stoic does not deny feeling, he purifies it. He does not erase emotion, he refines it. Anger becomes clarity about what is just. Fear becomes alertness to danger without paralysis. Grief becomes gratitude for love once held. Joy becomes appreciation without clinging. In this way, reason does not diminish life, it deepens it. You have made it this far tonight, and that itself is proof of your strength. You could have turned away. You could have fled into distraction. You could have told yourself there was no time, but you did not. You chose to remain. That choice is the seed of all progress. If you continue to choose in this way, to choose reflection over noise, focus over distraction, courage over avoidance, you will grow stronger with each passing day. Not in a way the world measures, but in a way that cannot be measured, in the steadiness of your soul. Tomorrow, life will meet you again. It will come with its surprises, its demands, its joys, its trials. It will test your patience, tempt your desires, and challenge your peace. But you will not meet it the same as you did before. You will meet it with the memory of this night, with the clarity you have cultivated, with the calm you have built. And when you drift, for you will drift, you will return. Each return will be a victory. Each return will strengthen your mastery. Each return will bring you closer to the peace you seek. So rest now, not with fear of what tomorrow may bring, but with confidence in what you are becoming. You have prepared yourself for life. You have tended to your soul. You have practiced the art of return, the discipline of silence, the courage of reflection. These are not small things. They are the foundation of freedom. They are the marks of strength. They are the signs of a life lived in harmony with reason. And tomorrow, when life greets you again, you will greet it not with fear, but with the calm dignity of one who has prepared. You are calmer now, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The world still moves with the same turbulence, the same unpredictability, the same mixture of joys and sorrows. The seasons still shift, people still act according to their natures, events unfold beyond your control. But within you something is different. You have remembered that your peace is not determined by circumstance, but by choice. You have remembered that the only true domain you possess is the space between event and response, and within that space you are free. This freedom expresses itself quietly. It does not shout or announce itself. It is felt as a gentle clarity, a loosening of the tight grip you once had on outcomes. By what you allow in, you shape your inner world. By what you let go, you lighten the load you carry. By how you choose to interpret each moment, you decide whether it will harm you or help you, whether it will embitter you or strengthen you. The world may press upon you, but it cannot determine the meaning you give to what happens. That meaning is yours alone. This is the essence of Stoicism, not the denial of difficulty, but the mastery of it. To practice Stoicism is not to pretend that loss does not hurt, that pain is not real, that injustice is not wrong. It is to acknowledge all of these without surrendering your soul to them. It is to say, this is what fate has brought, now how will I meet it? It is to make of every event a field for virtue. The practice does not erase hardship, it transforms it. A blow that might have broken you becomes a chance to develop resilience. An insult that might have consumed you becomes a chance to practice patience. A loss that might have left you bitter becomes a chance to learn gratitude for what was. Nor is Stoicism the absence of feeling. It is the purification of it. It asks you not to smother your emotions, but to refine them, to understand their origins, to free them from distortion. Anger becomes discernment. Fear becomes caution without paralysis. Desire becomes intention without obsession. Grief becomes love, enduring even after loss. Reason does not make you cold, it makes you clear. It does not strip life of its color, but removes the fog so you can see the colors as they are. You are not less human for practicing reason. You are more. To be ruled by every impulse, to be dragged by every passion is to live reactively as a leaf blown by the wind. But to pause, to reflect, to choose, that is the act of a conscious being. That is the act of a soul awake to its own power. When you live in this way, you do not become a machine. You become a fuller human, one who feels deeply but is not enslaved by feeling, one who acts with care rather than compulsion. This calm you feel now is not a fragile state to be preserved only in perfect conditions. It is a skill, a discipline, a practice. You can return to it whenever you drift. You can carry it with you into noise, into work, into conflict, into loss. It is built not on the world's compliance, but on your own mastery. The storms will still come, but you have learned to steer. The fire will still burn, but you have learned to use it as fuel. The difficulties will still arise, but you have learned to meet them with the dignity of a steady soul. And so you sit here now calmer, not because the world has bowed to you, but because you have bowed to reason. Not because life has ceased to challenge you, but because you have ceased to surrender your peace to life. This is what the Stoics taught. This is what you are practicing. This is what it means to be free. If there was tension in your chest when the night began, feel now how it has softened. What once pressed heavily against you has loosened its grip, not because the weight of the world has disappeared, but because you have shifted the way you hold it. Tension thrives when we resist, when we demand that life conform to our desires. But the moment you allow yourself to breathe, the moment you accept what is within your control and release what is not, that tension begins to dissolve. It is not the world that has changed, but you. If there was unrest in your thoughts, feel how they have slowed. The mind at the beginning of the night may have raced, forward into imagined futures, backward into relived regrets. It may have scattered itself in countless directions, as if trying to escape its own restlessness. But now it is quieter, steadier, more anchored. Not because the noise of the world has stopped, but because you have remembered that your attention is yours to guide. You have remembered that peace is not found in silencing all external sound, but in learning to silence your inner clamor. This is not because the words you have heard tonight are magic. No words have the power to alter reality unless you let them enter you. These words are not charms, not spells, not secret formulas. They are reminders. They point not to something foreign or distant, but to something you have always carried within you. The truth is not delivered to you from the outside. It awakens within you when you choose to recognize it. What you feel now is not the gift of another, but the rediscovery of yourself. The truth has always been in you, that you are capable, that you are stronger than your impulses, that you are not a prisoner of every desire or every fear that arises, that you are not condemned to be carried away by every storm of emotion. Deep down, you have always known this. Life may have made you forget. Distraction may have hidden it from you. Pain may have convinced you otherwise. But beneath all of that, your reason has remained, waiting to be remembered. These words have only reminded you. They have not created strength within you. They have pointed you back to the strength you already possess. They have not built your peace. They have shown you that peace is always available when you choose it. They have not granted you freedom. They have revealed that freedom has always been your birthright, if only you claim it. The architect of your inner life has never been fortune, never been the crowd, never been the noise of the world. It has always been you. You are the architect of your own inner peace. Each thought you permit, each judgment you accept, each choice you make is a stone in the structure of your soul. Build with care, and your mind becomes a fortress no storm can shake. Build carelessly, and your mind collapses under its own weight. But the building is yours. No one else can do it for you. And because it is yours, no one can take it from you. So feel now the calm you have cultivated. It is not fragile, for it comes not from chance, but from choice. It is not temporary, for it is built on principles that do not fade. It is not dependent, for it does not lean on what lies outside of you. It is yours entirely. And as you carry it into tomorrow, remember, no matter what life brings, you remain the architect. You remain capable. You remain stronger than your impulses. You remain free. Stoicism is not a set of quotes to admire. It is not a collection of aphorisms to recite when convenient, nor a series of intellectual exercises to be picked up in moments of inspiration and set down when life grows difficult. Stoicism, in its truest form, is a way of life to embody. It is a discipline of mind and character that demands practice, not performance. Too many are content to admire the words of philosophers as if they were ornaments, something to decorate their intellect with, something to post on a wall or repeat in conversation. But the ancients did not write for applause. They wrote for survival, for clarity, for the cultivation of strength in a world that was as chaotic and unforgiving as our own. To live as a Stoic is to absorb these teachings until they shape the very marrow of your being. It is to let them guide your actions when no one is watching, to let them speak through you when circumstances press against your will. You now carry in you the voice of Epictetus, that former slave who understood with unmatched clarity that freedom does not depend on chains or status, but on the mastery of one's own will. His voice reminds you that no one can harm your will without your consent. They can take your possessions, your health, your reputation, even your life, but they cannot touch your power of choice. That inner citadel is yours alone. To forget this is to live in fear, perpetually vulnerable to insult, loss, and change. To remember it is to walk through life with unshakable composure, for you realize that everything external belongs to fortune, but your will belongs to you. Epictetus speaks across centuries, not to decorate your mind with cleverness, but to remind you that in every moment you have the power to choose your response. That power is enough to make you free no matter your condition. You also carry the clarity of Seneca, who warns you not to waste time, not to postpone your life. His words are not an abstract meditation, but a plea born from the recognition of life's brevity. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. How many days are lost to distraction, to resentment, to chasing what does not matter? Seneca does not write as a saint, but as a man who himself wrestled with power, wealth, and ambition. He knew the temptations that consume our attention, and he knew the danger of postponing the essential. To live, as he advises, is to treat each day as a complete life in itself, to practice the art of presence, to recognize that the future is not promised. In carrying his clarity, you carry a mirror that reflects the urgency of now, a reminder that you cannot endlessly defer the life you intend to live. You also carry the discipline of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled the most powerful empire of his time, yet spoke to himself each morning as a student of virtue. He guides you to be just, measured, and aligned with nature. His meditations are not decrees from a throne, but journal entries, written in the solitude of camp tents, under the weight of responsibility, illness, and constant threat of war. He wrote not for others, but for himself, to remind his own heart of the path he wished to walk. From him, you learn that discipline is not cold rigidity, but harmony. The alignment of one's life with reason, with justice, with the larger order of the universe. Discipline is found in the patient correction of your impulses, in the steady cultivation of habits that strengthen rather than weaken you, in the willingness to serve others with fairness rather than bend to selfish desires. Carrying his discipline means waking each day with the resolve to live as a part of nature, not as its enemy, to accept what comes with equanimity, and to do what is within your power with excellence. These men are not idols. They did not intend to be worshipped, nor would they wish to be placed on pedestals beyond reach. To idolize them is to miss the point. They were men of flesh and weakness, tested by temptations, failures, and contradictions. Seneca struggled with wealth, Marcus with power, Epictetus with hardship. Their greatness lies not in perfection, but in the seriousness of their practice. They did not live flawlessly, they lived earnestly. To treat them as idols is to distance them, to make their example unattainable. To treat them as examples is to walk beside them. You too will falter, you too will fail, but like them, you can return again and again to the practice of virtue, to the cultivation of reason, to the work of living in alignment with what is good. And so, in your quiet practice, you walk beside them. Each time you remind yourself that your will cannot be harmed without your consent, Epictetus is there. Each time you choose to treat today as precious, refusing to waste it, Seneca is beside you. Each time you discipline your mind to act justly and accept reality as it unfolds, Marcus walks with you. You may not live in Rome, you may not wear the garments of antiquity, but the same human struggles remain. Fear, anger, desire, distraction, mortality. The tools they forged are not locked in history, they are alive in every moment you choose to use them. To embody Stoicism is not to deny emotion, but to master it. It is not to eliminate desire, but to channel it toward what is worthy. It is not to escape life, but to engage it with wisdom. The Stoic does not float above the world in detachment, but stands firmly within it, participating fully, yet with perspective. You will feel grief, but you will not be destroyed by it. You will feel anger, but you will not be ruled by it. You will desire, but you will not be enslaved by desire. This balance comes only through practice, through the daily discipline of aligning thought and action with virtue. Practice does not require grandeur. It does not require heroic acts that impress the world. It requires constancy in the small things. It is in the restraint of a sharp word when anger rises. It is in the choice to focus on what you can control rather than raging at what you cannot. It is in the courage to speak truth when silence would be easier. It is in the patience to listen, the humility to learn, the discipline to persist. These small, unseen acts accumulate, and over time they shape the soul more deeply than any single dramatic gesture. The true measure of Stoicism is not how eloquently you can quote its philosophers, but how steadily you can live its principles when life presses hardest. When fortune turns against you, when injustice stares you down, when loss shatters your plans, that is when Stoicism reveals itself. Do you collapse into bitterness, or do you endure with dignity? Do you curse the world, or do you take responsibility for your response? These are not abstract questions, they are the daily test of your character. And so you walk beside Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus, not by reciting their words, but by embodying them. They are companions on the journey, examples of what is possible, voices reminding you of truths easily forgotten. You do not need to be perfect to walk with them, you only need to be sincere in your effort. For sincerity is the essence of the Stoic path, the willingness to return again and again to the discipline of living well. Stoicism, then, is not a philosophy to admire from a distance. It is not a relic of ancient times, but a living practice. To embody it is to weave its teachings into the fabric of your days until they become second nature. To embody it is to carry its voices within you, not as ornaments of intellect, but as guides of action. To embody it is to walk quietly and steadily beside those who came before, contributing in your own time to the eternal task of living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-mastery. And tomorrow, when you rise, the practice continues. As your body rests deeper, let these lessons settle not just in your mind, but in your marrow. Let them reshape the way you see the world. Tomorrow, you will face moments that challenge you, a rude word, a delay, a fear that rises uninvited. But when it comes, you will have space, a breath, a pause. That is your power. That is the difference between reaction and response, between living unconsciously and living deliberately. Nothing external has the power to disturb you without your participation. That is not a comforting thought. It is a demanding one. It means you are responsible, not for everything that happens, but for everything you choose in response. And that responsibility is what frees you, because once you accept it, no one can take it from you. No one can manipulate your peace if you do not hand it over. No one can define your worth if you have already decided it yourself. Let that truth become the root of your life. Do not let it remain a fleeting insight, something you recognize only in moments of quiet and then forget when the world grows loud again. Let it become the foundation you stand upon each day, the anchor that steadies you, the soil from which all your actions grow. A root does not appear suddenly. It sinks slowly, extending deeper with time, finding nourishment even in difficult ground. So too must this truth sink into you, that your peace, your freedom, your calm are not dependent on the world outside, but on the choices you make within. Not just when it is easy should you hold this truth, especially when it is hard. In times of ease, philosophy is pleasant, almost ornamental. It comforts you gently, like sunlight on a calm day. But in times of hardship, philosophy becomes necessity, becomes medicine, becomes the very air you breathe. When life is smooth, it costs little to say, "I am at peace." But when life turns against you, when the storms rise, when the world seems to conspire against your calm, it is then that your training is tested. And it is then that the true Stoic is revealed. Anyone can be calm when things go well. Anyone can appear wise when fortune smiles, when health is strong, when relationships are harmonious, when plans succeed. Calmness in ease is not yet mastery. It is only the reflection of favorable conditions. True calm, the calm of the Stoic, is proven when conditions collapse. Can you be calm when things do not go your way? Can you be steady when loss arrives, when pain deepens, when uncertainty refuses to lift? This is the question that life asks of you again and again. Can you remain aligned when others fall into chaos? The world will often run toward panic, toward anger, toward despair. People will curse fate, curse one another, curse themselves. They will demand answers, demand control, demand that reality obey their desires. But you have been reminded that reality obeys no one, that the universe moves according to its own law, not according to human wishes. And so, when others are swept away, you have the chance to remain steady, not untouched, not unfeeling, but aligned. Aligned with reason, aligned with what depends on you, and free of what does not. Can you stand firm in silence when the world screams for reaction? This may be the hardest of all, for the world thrives on reaction, on constant noise, on the endless cycle of outrage and distraction. It will tell you that you must respond immediately, that you must match noise with noise, that you must give yourself to every impulse that stirs within you. But the Stoic learns to pause. To stand firm in silence is not weakness. It is strength of the highest order. It is the strength of one who knows that not every thought must be spoken, not every provocation must be answered, not every demand must be met. It is the strength of one who has chosen mastery over impulse. Yes, you can. Perhaps you doubt it at times. Perhaps you look at yourself and see only the moments you faltered, the times you gave in, the hours you drifted. But do not mistake faltering for failure. Do not mistake drifting for defeat. You are practicing, you are training. And training means repetition. It means mistakes. It means returning again and again to the path. The progress of the soul is not measured by perfection, but by persistence. Each time you return, you grow. Each time you rise after falling, you strengthen your capacity to stand. You are not waiting for ideal conditions. You are becoming ideal within any condition. To wait for the world to be calm before you practice calmness is to postpone peace forever. The world will not grant you perfect conditions. It will always be noisy, always be unstable, always be uncertain. But you do not need ideal conditions. You need only to choose how you will meet what comes, to choose what thoughts you allow in and which you let pass, to choose what virtues you will practice no matter what the day demands. In this way, you become ideal, not because life is easy, but because you have learned to stand steady when life is hard. Think of a tree in the midst of a storm. The winds tear at its branches, the rain lashes against its trunk, the ground shakes beneath it. Yet the tree does not flee. It cannot. It remains where it is. Its strength is not the absence of the storm, but the depth of its roots. The Stoic is like this tree. You cannot prevent the winds of fortune from blowing, but you can deepen your roots in reason. You cannot prevent the storms of pain, loss, or uncertainty, but you can stand firm, nourished by the conviction that virtue is your only true possession. The practice of philosophy, then, is not a luxury. It is survival. Without it, the storms of life will uproot you again and again. With it you may bend, but you will not break. You may grieve, but you will not despair. You may feel pain, but you will not be consumed by it. You may face chaos, but you will not lose yourself within it. Philosophy teaches you not how to escape life's conditions, but how to live well within them. That is why you train. That is why you return to these truths night after night. Do not underestimate what you are doing now. To sit in silence when the world demands noise is an act of rebellion. To remain still when the world glorifies busyness is an act of courage. To choose reflection when the world sells distraction is an act of strength. These choices may seem small, but they are shaping you. They are making you capable of meeting tomorrow with greater steadiness than you had today. They are teaching you to live not reactively, but deliberately. And tomorrow, life will test you. You do not know how. Perhaps in a small way, perhaps in a way that shakes you to the core. But the test will come, because life is constant testing. Do not hope that it will not arrive. Instead, remember that you are preparing for it even now. When it comes, you will say, "This is the moment I trained for. This is the moment to practice what I have learned. This is the moment to prove to myself that peace is not theory, but reality." Each trial is a chance to deepen your practice. Each difficulty is a chance to strengthen your calm. Each challenge is an opportunity to embody what you have reflected on. Do not curse these trials. Welcome them as training partners, as the very resistance that builds your strength. The athlete does not grow strong without weights. The soul does not grow strong without hardship. Life will provide the hardship. Your task is to use it well. So let this truth take root in you, that peace is not passive, but active. That strength is not the absence of weakness, but the repeated choice to rise above it. That calm is not the gift of fortune, but the fruit of discipline. When you live by this truth, you cease to be a leaf blown by the wind of circumstance. You become the tree rooted deeply. You become the sailor who steers even in storm. You become the soul that remains free even when all else is lost. And remember, this does not make you less human, it makes you more. For to be human is not simply to feel, but to rise above feeling when it distorts judgment. To be human is not to avoid pain, but to transform it into wisdom. To be human is not to demand ease, but to learn dignity in difficulty. The Stoic life is not a denial of humanity, but its highest expression, reason guiding passion, virtue guiding action, peace guiding the soul. You are calmer now, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are steadier now, not because fortune has favored you, but because you have remembered where strength truly lies. You are freer now, not because conditions have become ideal, but because you are learning to become ideal within any condition. And tomorrow, when life meets you again, you will meet it not with fear, but with the calm dignity of one who has trained, who has practiced, who has returned again and again to what is true. There may still be things unresolved in your life. That is not only acceptable, but inevitable. No human life, no matter how carefully lived, is free of loose threads. There will always be questions without answers, tasks left unfinished, relationships unsettled, futures uncertain. To imagine otherwise is to expect from the world what the world cannot give. The Stoic accepts this truth not with bitterness, but with calm. He knows that perfection is not promised, that closure is not guaranteed, that clarity will not arrive on every matter. What he needs is not the tying of every thread, but the steadiness of his own judgment. A firm mind is enough. A clear compass is enough. When Marcus Aurelius reflected on the turbulence of his days, he did not expect harmony in the outer world. He did not ask that fortune should bring only calm seas. He asked instead for clarity in his judgments, for discipline in his actions, for alignment between his reason and the order of nature. He understood that what unsettles us most is not the state of the world itself, but the state of our thoughts about it. If you demand completion, you will be restless. If you demand certainty, you will be disappointed. If you demand control over what lies beyond you, you will be enslaved. But if you train your judgment to distinguish what is yours from what is not, you will be free, even while loose ends remain all around you. There may still be grief. The death of those you love may weigh on you, and the ache may not disappear with time. There may still be pain in your body, reminders of fragility, limitations you never wished for but must endure. There may still be uncertainty about the future, about your plans, about whether tomorrow will bring gain or loss, joy or sorrow. Yet all of this is all right. These are not barriers to peace, but the conditions in which peace is tested, formed, and made real. It is easy to imagine tranquility when nothing disturbs you. The true task is to cultivate tranquility while life shakes you. The Stoics taught that adversity is not the enemy of peace, but the material from which peace is forged. Just as the blacksmith requires fire to shape iron, the mind requires trial to shape character. Without grief, you would not know the depth of love. Without pain, you would not develop endurance. Without uncertainty, you would not learn humility or presence. These conditions are not punishments but opportunities. They are the raw material handed to you by fate, and your task is to mold them into something noble. Peace is not found in the absence of storms, but in the skill of navigating them. Think of a sailor at sea. If he demanded that the waters always be calm, he would never leave the harbor. If he refused to set sail until he was sure the skies would never darken, he would never begin his journey. But if he accepts that storms will come and instead prepares his ship and strengthens his skills, he becomes capable of traveling anywhere. His peace does not depend on the sea being gentle, but on his ability to steer. So too with life. You cannot demand that events conform to your desires, but you can prepare yourself to steer with reason as your compass and virtue as your destination. Reason as the compass. This means that in every circumstance, you ask what is within your control and what is not. You focus your energy where it belongs, on your own judgments, choices, and actions, and you release your grasp on what lies beyond you. This simple act of discernment frees you from endless frustration. When insulted, you remember that the words of others are not yours to govern, but your response is. When fortune shifts, you recall that wealth and reputation are external, but integrity is internal. Reason guides you back, again and again, to the small circle of control that belongs to you. virtue as the destination. This means that in every circumstance, your aim is not comfort or advantage, but goodness. You ask not, how can I avoid pain, but how can I act justly, wisely, courageously, and temperately here? You remind yourself that the goal of life is not to accumulate possessions, applause, or even security, but to live in harmony with what is highest in you. Virtue is the harbor at which you dock, no matter how wild the seas have been. When reason directs you and virtue draws you, you cannot be lost. To live this way is not to be free of grief, pain, or uncertainty. These will remain as they always do, but they will no longer have the power to enslave you. They will cease to appear as threats to your peace and instead become part of the very landscape of your peace. A tranquil mind does not deny storms, but learns to steer within them. This is the paradox at the heart of Stoicism, that the most serene life is not the easiest one, but the one lived with unshakable clarity amid difficulty. Many people delay peace because they believe it can only come once all problems are solved. They tell themselves, I will be at rest when my career is stable, when my relationships are secure, when my health is perfect, when my future is clear. But life never grants such conditions for long. Careers change, relationships shift, bodies weaken, the future remains hidden. If you wait for perfect circumstances, you will wait forever. The Stoic chooses differently. He begins his pursuit of peace, not when all is resolved, but here and now, in the midst of the unresolved. This choice requires courage. It is easier to blame the world for your unrest. It is easier to tell yourself that peace will arrive once fate has been kinder, but to take responsibility for your own mind, to admit that tranquility depends not on fortune, but on judgment, is to carry a heavier, though nobler, burden. It is the burden of freedom. No one can give you this peace, and no one can take it from you. It rests entirely on how you govern yourself. Freedom and peace are inseparable. The one who is ruled by fear, desire, or anger is not free, even if he holds great power. He is chained to passions that toss him about like a ship without a rudder, but the one who governs himself with reason is free, even if he is a slave in body. He may not control his circumstances, but he controls himself, and that is enough. In that control lies tranquility, for nothing can disturb a soul that has mastered its judgments. When you lie down at night, remember this. The day may have brought unresolved matters, conflicts not yet healed, uncertainties not yet clarified. Do not demand that they vanish before you rest. Instead, examine your mind. Did you meet the day with reason? Did you act in accordance with virtue? Did you resist being ruled by what is beyond you? If so, you are at peace, no matter how much remains unsettled. And if not, tomorrow is another chance to practice, another opportunity to train. This nightly training is the heart of Stoic discipline. It transforms the stillness of evening into a school for the soul. In silence, you confront your judgments honestly. You separate what depends on you from what does not. You release what you cannot control. You strengthen what you can. This is the quiet work of peace, unseen, uncelebrated, but powerful. Over time, it builds within you a steadiness that no storm can uproot. The fruits of this practice are gradual, but they endure. With each day, you find yourself less disturbed by what once shook you. The grief remains, but it no longer crushes you. The pain persists, but you bear it with courage. The uncertainty endures, but you live calmly in its midst. What has changed is not the world, but you. You have become the sailor who knows how to steer, the blacksmith who knows how to shape iron, the mind that knows how to govern itself. And so, you must not wait for all to be resolved before you seek peace. Begin with the unresolved. Begin with the grief, the pain, the uncertainty you carry today. They are not obstacles, but materials. They are the very substance out of which tranquility is formed. To live is to sail through storms. To live wisely is to sail with reason as your compass and virtue as your destination. The storms will never cease, but your mind will be steady, and in that steadiness you will find the peace that no fortune can give and no misfortune can destroy. Feel your breath now, slow, steady. Let it be the anchor that holds you in the present, not the past, not the future. The Stoic knows the present is all that exists. The past cannot be changed, the future cannot be controlled, but the present, this breath, this thought, this choice is where power lives. So stay here, even as you sleep, stay here, in this moment, in this body, in this awareness. You are not chasing peace anymore, you are building it quietly, night after night, decision after decision, thought after thought. This work is not easy, but it is real. And it lasts. No one can give it to you. No one can take it away. That is the gift of Stoic practice. You become your own fortress, your own sanctuary, your own philosopher king. When you rise tomorrow, carry that posture with you, not in arrogance, for arrogance is brittle and always seeks to inflate itself by comparison. Arrogance shouts, demands, and clings to validation. But steadiness is different. Steadiness is quiet, grounded, unshaken by praise and undisturbed by criticism. It does not rise and fall with the moods of the crowd, nor does it depend on circumstance. To live with steadiness is to walk into the day like a tree, rooted deeply in the earth, swaying with the wind, but never uprooted. Such a posture allows you to face both triumph and trial with the same calm dignity. It frees you from the exhausting need to prove yourself and opens the way to live with integrity. Steadiness begins in silence. Speak less and observe more. Much of the noise of the world is the ego trying to assert itself, trying to make sure it is noticed, trying to cover insecurity with sound. But when you resist the urge to fill every silence, you give yourself the chance to hear what others miss. Observation sharpens perception. You notice patterns in people's words, the subtle hesitations that reveal truth, the quiet resilience of someone who suffers silently, the details that are invisible to those who are too busy talking. In speaking less, you gain more insight. In observing more, you learn the art of patience, and in patience you build the capacity to act with clarity rather than impulse. Resist nothing. This does not mean resignation or passive acceptance of injustice. It means dropping the futile struggle against reality as it is. Too often, suffering is multiplied by resistance to what cannot be changed. We waste energy wishing the past had been different, wishing circumstances were easier, wishing people were other than who they are. Resistance adds a second layer of pain to the first. By resisting nothing, you learn to move with life instead of against it. When disappointment comes, you acknowledge it. When obstacles appear, you adapt to them. When emotions surge, you allow them without letting them control you. This posture does not weaken you, it makes you stronger. For the one who resists nothing is the one who wastes no energy in denial and has more strength to act where action is possible. To judge clearly is the next discipline. The world is full of distortion. Our desires twist perception, our fears obscure truth, our biases filter reality. To judge clearly is to cut through illusion. It is to look at events and people without the fog of projection, to see not only what we wish but what is. Clarity of judgment comes only to those who are willing to look within and confront their own biases. It requires the humility to admit when you have been wrong and the courage to see things as they are, not as you hope or fear them to be. Clear judgment does not come from cynicism, but from honesty. And honesty with oneself is among the hardest forms of courage. From clarity flows the ability to act justly. To act justly is not simply to follow rules or traditions, but to align your actions with fairness, truth, and compassion. It requires balancing your own needs with those of others, seeking not merely your advantage, but the greater good. Justice often requires sacrifice, choosing the harder path because it is the right one, not the convenient one. It is easy to act justly when it costs nothing. The real test is when justice demands humility, effort, or personal loss. Yet to act unjustly, even when no one sees it, erodes the soul from within. To act justly, even when unseen, builds a strength and dignity that no external recognition can match. In your actions, seek excellence, not attention. Attention is fleeting, a shallow currency that others can give and withdraw at whim. To live for attention is to live at the mercy of others' judgments, always chasing applause, always fearing rejection. Excellence, however, is inward. It is the standard you set for yourself, independent of whether anyone notices. Excellence is found in the quality of your work, the care you bring to relationships, the discipline you practice in your craft. It is not about perfection, but about integrity, doing the best you can with what you have in every circumstance. Attention may follow excellence, or it may not, but excellence leaves you with peace of mind that no amount of applause can provide. Similarly, seek growth, not validation. Validation is addictive, a drug that soothes insecurity but leaves you dependent. Growth is more demanding because it requires humility, the willingness to be a beginner, to fail, to learn, to start again. Growth stretches you beyond comfort, forcing you to face your limitations and transform them into strengths. Validation tells you that you are good enough where you are. Growth insists that you can become more. Validation fades the moment it is given. Growth endures, shaping your character and enlarging your capacity for life. When you seek growth, you stop measuring yourself by comparison to others and instead measure yourself against your own potential. That is the only standard that truly matters. Every external event you encounter is raw material for virtue. A challenge is material for resilience. An insult is material for patience. A success is material for humility. A loss is material for strength. Virtue is not built in isolation, it is forged in the fires of daily life. The world throws circumstances at you, not to punish or reward, but to offer the chance to grow. If you treat events as neutral raw material, you stop seeing them as blessings or curses and start seeing them as opportunities. The same stone that one person stumbles over can be the stepping stone another uses to rise. The difference lies not in the stone, but in the response. You do not need to seek meaning in some distant, abstract sense. Meaning is not hidden in faraway philosophies or locked in the approval of others. Meaning arises naturally when you respond with integrity. Integrity is alignment, the harmony between thought, word, and action. When you live with integrity, meaning follows as a byproduct. It is not something you chase, but something that flows. A life of integrity feels meaningful because each moment is lived in truth, each decision is anchored in values, and each act contributes to the whole of who you are becoming. This is why the posture you carry tomorrow is so important. It is not about grand gestures or dramatic transformations. It is about the small, consistent disciplines that shape the soul over time. The steadiness to face reality without resistance. The silence that allows observation and insight. The clarity to judge fairly. The courage to act justly. The devotion to excellence without the need for attention. The hunger for growth over validation, the integrity that transforms external events into inner virtue. These are not glamorous traits, but they are the foundation of a meaningful life. To embody this posture is to walk through the world with a quiet strength that cannot be taken away. External fortune may rise or fall, others may praise or condemn, circumstances may change in ways you cannot control, yet within you remain anchored. You do not seek to dominate life, nor to flee from it, but to participate fully with steadiness, clarity, and integrity. Such a life does not guarantee ease, but it does guarantee dignity. And dignity, unlike success or failure, is always within your power. In the end, when the day is over and the noise recedes, you will look back not at how much attention you received, but at how much you grew. You will measure yourself not by the applause of the crowd, but by the quality of your character. And you will find meaning not in what life gave you, but in how you responded to it. That is the secret. Meaning is not a treasure to be hunted, but a consequence of living well. Carry that posture tomorrow, and you will find that every day, no matter how ordinary or difficult, becomes part of the extraordinary work of building a soul. If you forget tomorrow, that's fine. Begin again. If you fall into old patterns, that's fine. Begin again. There is no end to this work, and there is no shame in the process. There is only the next step, the next breath, the next moment of practice. Every time you return, you deepen your character. Every time you choose reason over impulse, you become more free. Let that be your rhythm now. Return, reflect, realign, over and over. That is the Stoic path. That is the quiet path, the strong path, the free path. And you are already walking it, not someday, but tonight, here, now, in this stillness. So rest, not in ignorance, not in escape, but in strength. In clarity, in awareness. You are ready, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. And willingness is the start of all virtue. Tomorrow will come, and you will meet it, not with fear, but with reason, not with resistance, but with composure. And that is enough. Good night, philosopher. Good night, warrior of the soul. Good night, builder of inner peace. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are exactly where you need to be. Let that be enough. Let yourself sleep.